Stay on.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of The Cut. I am your host, Christian Williams, and I am here with Randy Hall. Randy, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good. Chris Godwin really just took away all chance of me winning the Scott Fish Bowl this week, and I'm really sad about that. But at least this game's decided before we started this.
Yeah, there have been too many good games on Monday Night Football, or close games at least. So I have Mike Evans going in Scott Fish Bowl, and that's really the only matchup that is in the balance. So I haven't looked, but I'm hoping that he got me enough. But
I can tell you that our OG dynasty was never in doubt. That's why I said GG on Wednesday.
Yeah. I took it to you, but that's okay.
I wasn't.
I didn't even.
If I had my team, I feel like I could have competed.
You probably would have beat me for sure. But all right, guys, we are here to talk through everything that happened in Week 11 of the NFL. We're also doing something a little bit different. We haven't really dove into the NFL draft yet, 2022 NFL draft. So we're just going to talk through a couple of position groups and what we think are some strengths and weaknesses. Probably won't get too in-depth on the prospects and their actual strengths and weaknesses, but I can't make promises that I won't do that. Yeah, and Randy definitely will also want to do that, but we'll try to keep it short and concise. And then we're also going to be giving you guys the waiver wire wish list as we do every Monday night. Again, thank you guys for joining. If you are joining live, we would definitely appreciate it if you went over to your favorite podcast app and subscribed there. Not a requirement, just a wish of ours. But let's get right into it because there's a lot to talk about. So Week 11, we had a couple of injuries, one that made me incredibly sad. So Justin Fields left the game against the Ravens. He has a rib injury. He was getting his spleen checked out, and he has already been ruled out of their Thanksgiving Day game. And that's really, I fully expect Justin Fields to be fine. I think if he had 6 days to recover, he would play. But of course, they play on Thanksgiving, and now I have to watch Andy Dalton play on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, we do.
For the second year in a row, by the way.
But so let's hope that we don't also have to see Tim Boyle play. So let's hope for at least a Jared Goff recovery at the worst. Maybe that game won't be the worst thing ever.
Yeah, but it very well could be. Now, Andy Dalton looked pretty good in relief of Justin Fields. The offense opened up, and they actually let him throw, and he still graded out 0.4 points better than the rookie that only threw 11 times. So not a great day for him, and I don't expect one on Thursday. But yeah, Justin Fields should be fine. That's kind of the long way of saying I think if he had a few extra days, he would play. I think they're going to fire Nagy on Friday too. So
happy Thanksgiving, Pilgrims.
Right.
Man, let's hope.
Yeah,
I'm just so done with
Well, so there was the report. We're going to talk about Matt Nagy. So yeah, we'll just skip that. Chris Carson on Thursday or Friday actually was ruled out for the year. He had a surgery. It's fusing one of his things in his spine, pretty much in his neck. I was pointing to it if you're watching, but it's not good. It's going to keep him out through at least the spring. I don't know what you do with Chris Carson if you're playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. I don't
expect them to not draft a running back again, because if they don't draft someone to replace him, which we'll get into that in a second, but if they don't draft anyone, I don't think anyone in this roster replaces him. And We know they give him the workhorse role. He was getting that this year. This is a recurring issue that they basically decided to stop having a recurring issue with the surgery.
Yes. My concern, though, is isn't this the same exact thing that Peyton Manning had?
I don't believe so. Didn't Manning actually break his neck? He didn't just have
maybe. So that's where my concern is, though, is we've
this
seen
could be the lingering thing, yeah.
Yeah, so
Manning had.
which caused him to be terrible after, for the most part.
I don't recall someone, at least athletic wise, that continues that has had some major neck injury that hasn't eventually had neck fusion. We are way past the point of that being a death sentence for an athlete. Honestly, I've seen a lot of different people in different works of sports come back from major neck surgeries and be better than ever. So I think he'll be fine, especially if he was playing through this. My only worry, and it still isn't the worst case scenario, but my worry is if he was starting to lose feeling in his hands at times because it was getting really bad, then it's a more serious surgery. That's basically it.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep tabs on it. I would say. I would just offload him from your roster still, because I think you can still get a decent haul back for him. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, okay. So what would it take?
A young wide receiver too that's a little unproven. So I wouldn't ask for a ton. So I can't think of a good example right now. So
well,
would you
helpful,
would you trade Chris Carson for Mike Williams right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm at because I think Mike Williams, wide receiver 2, still unproven somehow.
He's proven.
He's just
this year is kind of proven. You're allowed to have down weeks.
Yeah,
I think with this offense, he's proven. I think I would, but that's because of how good Mike Williams has played this year. Chris Carson for a late first. You doing that?
I would take the late first if it's 2023. That's I'm waiting until
your
after my rookie.
better be really good then, because you're waiting for an inevitable replacement for 2023 when we know as of now the wide receiver class isn't as hype as the last ones and this one, whereas the running back class isn't that tremendous this year, but is good next year, and at least top heavy the next year. Yeah. After that, Henderson and a couple others.
So that's kind of where we're at with Chris Carson. Obviously, we didn't really provide a ton of help here, but
I think running backs are going to go late first in Superflex drafts this year. But what, Kenneth Walker or Chris Carson?
I'd still take Carson.
I think I do too. That's my point. And he may be one of the higher drafted. I doubt it because he's not fast, but
yeah. We'll see. That's a lot of Chris Carson talk, though. So we have to get to the next person, which is Jamal Agnew, the Jaguars wide receiver 1 over the last since DJ Chark went down in week 3 or week 4. He's done for the year. He was placed on IR, knee injury.
Yes.
I tweeted out today. We're not doing the LaVisca dance again, guys. You can't do it. You can't do it to your team. You can't pick him up and you can't start him. A speculative ad, sure. I didn't put him on our waiver wire wish list because I don't think it's a good idea. I think you're gonna put him in your lineup thinking, oh my God, now look at all the targets he's gonna get now that Jamal Agnew, the former DB, is not on the field.
I don't believe he even got I think he may have gotten one target the week before where he had that huge run. That was basically all his points. So Agnew was not taking away the targets.
Yeah, these aren't good targets anyway. So basically, it sucks that Agnew's out because I was actually playing him in a league, but LaVisca isn't your next up. I think Tavon Austin might be the better option, honestly. So
Marvin Jones, Dan Arnold, or nothing.
Yeah, James Robinson. But he doesn't count. All right, and then the last major news on the injury front: Michael Carter out 2 to 3 weeks with a high ankle sprain. Right, I
Yes, I
saw.
believe so.
Yeah, so 2 to 3 weeks is generous in my opinion for a high ankle sprain. I think we're
On a
looking.
crap team, which makes it
Yeah,
even more generous.
yeah. So I wouldn't rely on Michael Carter coming back even for your fantasy playoffs. Maybe by the
Maybe championship,
yeah. So
semifinals at best.
it's unfortunate because he's really stepped up. The other issue with Michael Carter moving forward so even when he's back, he's going to have Zach Wilson back, which Michael Carter plus Zach Wilson was not as dynamic as Michael Carter plus, uh, Joe Flacco or Mike White. So we're past trade deadlines. You can't offload him, but I wouldn't expect him back for your playoffs and
No, but
expect to start him.
I mean, would you drop him? I think becomes the question.
I mean, if I have IR still and if I have slots, because I feel like you don't. I feel like you don't have IR slots, so I think I'd just drop Michael Carter. Yeah, but I'm not
Fun.
entirely sure what I would do. I don't have too much Michael Carter. So all right, let's get into some highlights of Week 11. So this is the fun part of the episode where we talk about the good things, and the first thing that I noticed this week is that Colt McCoy is elite now. And that's what we're putting on a graphic. So it's true. Colt McCoy, he dominated this football game. He was the master dink and dunker. So if you watch Mac Jones play, he aspires to be Colt McCoy. Colt McCoy in this game. So he was 35 of 44 for 328 and 2 touchdowns. He added 18 yards on the ground. He's 35. He's adding 18 yards on the ground. He's putting up Brady performances out here. No, but Colt McCoy was outstanding in this football game. The Cardinals seem to be legit no matter who's at quarterback. The Seahawks are imploding. I think we probably could have put the Seahawks in the lowlights instead of putting the Cardinals in the highlights. But at this point, with Kyler set to return after the bye week, do you think that the Cardinals are legit Super Bowl contenders now after what we've seen?
Yeah, if they could stay healthy, because they've been dominant. They've had injuries on both sides of the ball, and once they're full strength, I think. I mean, I don't see how you couldn't say the Super Bowl contenders, mainly because I don't think you could say any of the top 5 of the NFC aren't Super Bowl contenders right now.
Yeah, that's fair. We've talked through that quite a bit, but
yeah,
Cardinals should be back to full strength following the bye, and that's going to be a fun team. I think their matchup against the Rams that they have coming up soon is going to be a pivotal one, though, because I think the Rams are going to get it figured out too. Okay, moving on. Next team that we're going to talk about, the New England Patriots. I figured since Randy had such a bad week last week, heading into the show with the Browns and the Raiders, we talk about the other team that Randy supports, and that's the New England Patriots.
Yeah,
25-0 on Thursday Night Football. I will say that.
So close to 28-3. Shout out Adam.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, so in this game, their offense looked okay. Their rushing attack was really, really strong.
Yeah.
However, that defense is Super Bowl level, right? At this point, would you say that the Patriots are the best team in the AFC?
I think they're probably the best defense in the AFC.
Okay.
And they have, at least at worst case, every week a middle of the road running game, if not top 10. And then you have a quarterback that's not turning the ball over. I mean, you can win with that, plain and simple.
If the Patriots were to match up with the Chiefs in the playoffs tomorrow, would the Patriots be able to do enough on the defensive side of the ball to win that football game?
Yeah.
So at this point, I think the Patriots are the favorites to come out of the AFC. I tweeted this out last week. I said if the playoffs started today, I think the Patriots and the Cowboys would play in the Super Bowl. and then the Cowboys did what they did, and we'll talk about them in a bit. So maybe I was wrong on that front, but the Patriots are legit, guys. I believe it was Spence, Mr. Jonathan Taylor. He made a comment about Mac Jones and Baker Mayfield a few weeks back, and I said, well, the Browns are way better than the Patriots. Nope. Patriots are a legit football team. Bill is on his revenge tour against Tom Brady for getting to the Super Bowl last year. So he's pulling out every bag or everything from his bag of tricks, and I'm excited to see what the Patriots do. They've got a tough schedule over the next 5, and so it could plummet, or the defense might carry them. So
I mean, even if they go 2-3 out of the next 5, they're still looking pretty good, and I would say almost assertedly in the playoffs at that point.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next one, Cam Newton. He's back. He is absolutely back. Cam Newton. He posted well, maybe not after Tom Brady's probably going to pass him, but he had the 5th highest PFF passing grade in week 11. He went 21 of 27, 189 yards, 2 touchdowns. He added 46 yards on the ground and a touchdown on the ground. He looked as fast as he really ever has. He looks like the Cam Newton that maybe not MVP level Cam Newton, but he looks like legit quarterback Cam Newton, which is what this show tried to tell you. Cam Newton is still a good quarterback, and people say, well, he couldn't even beat out Mac Jones. That's not true. That is not true. That is not how that went down. I think everyone who says that knows that that's not how it went down, but they want to say that that's how it went down. What did you think of Cam's performance?
I think the first half looked really good.
Yeah.
And then it seemed to stall out after that. I think it's just adjustments from the football team, and they deservedly won the game. I still think this passing attack has some ways to go to be back to where it is lethal. I'm not sure Cam gets into that aspect, but I mean, McCaffrey looked good. He looked good. DJ Moore got a touchdown. Robbie Anderson's caught the ball for the 2nd week in a row. It's amazing.
Right.
I thought the offense looked really good. The defense is always going to be a little bit up and down when it's still that young. So
yeah. And to be fair, what Scott Turner and Ron Rivera are doing in Washington, I mean, they moved the ball against the Bucs, and then they moved the ball against the Panthers in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
I think Washington may have turned a corner. I don't think it's enough at this point, but I think that they could play spoiler here towards the end of the season. We talked a few weeks ago about the Eagles and their opportunity to potentially still make the playoffs despite having 3 wins at the time. I still think I still think they can, but I also think that those Washington matchups look a lot tougher now. In terms of the Panthers, I really wish they would have won this game, because I think that could have jump-started them quite a bit. We talked about it being a revenge game for Ron Rivera too, and I think that was important, and I think his players played for him pretty hard out there. Terry McLaurin was a beast. Taylor Heineke had the number 1 overall PFF passing grade on the week by a large margin. So not on the dock. Randy, do you think Taylor Heineke gets a chance to start there next year?
Yes, because I think they're just going to amicably say Fitzpatrick's out, and he's going to be the guy left there. And unless they bring in someone like Rodgers, I would say that they draft a young guy, because they needed to last year. They need to this year. They need another shot at this, because while Heineke, he has played very well in multiple games now. He's won games for them. He's still just not like that level, you know? Yeah. I would say he's arguably he's close to like Case Keenum in Minnesota, or like Foles, whatever he rotated in for a game.
Or Gardner Minshew even when he
the
played
first
well
bit.
that first year.
Yeah. The first 4-week stretch. Yeah. He's like that. I say that's comparable, and that gives you a shot.
It absolutely does. I think the same. I think that he starts next year for a large majority of the year as they kind of get a rookie uh,
Yeah, I
some
mean,
reps. I would say maybe
they're.
half the year.
I would say they're obviously a top 15 pick right now, probably top 10.
Yeah.
Do they
There's
take the first 10 picks and get a quarterback? I don't know. Do they wait and get someone in the second round to give it a shot? I don't. It's one of those. We'll see how it pans out. I,
it's
I hope
tough.
they. I hope they kind of need to make a splash move too. Is the biggest thing because they're about to roll out the new team name and the new logos and the new sell everything. Nothing old will be in the stadium as every other uh, new team name knows how that goes. So
Yes.
they're going to need to make some moves, and we'll see. I don't be shocked if they get man who. I wouldn't be shocked if they get a top tier quarterback. I really wouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see Russell Wilson in Washington next year either. So um, I think Seattle's gonna blow it up, which we didn't put them on the dock either. I should have.
Yeah.
Uh, but all right. Next team that we need to talk about is the Minnesota Vikings. 5-5 Minnesota Vikings after beating the Packers 31-34. Kirk Cousins tried really, really hard to lose this football game. He threw a game-clinching interception to Darnell Savage, who made a football move and then fumbled or made it incomplete. It was a fumble, but he may have even been down. I don't know. But either way, they gave the ball back to Minnesota. Then Kirk Cousins on the following play makes a stupid throw, like really dumb. Kevin King ran the route for Thielen, and he just overran it, and it was lucky, and it got by him, and it set them up for the game-winning field goal.
Yep.
And even when that happened, I said they're going to miss. We've talked about their
Oh,
regression in
100%.
close games. I 100% thought that they were gonna miss that field goal. Do you think this starts a run of positive things for the Vikings after
They're on
they've
they're on the run right now. This is
yeah
2 straight weeks of this, right?
yeah I mean the close game regression that we talked about a few weeks ago, it's happening.
Yeah.
They don't have the easiest of schedules moving forward though, so I don't. Let me see.
But like we said, that back end of the NFC playoff picture is sketchy at best. So it's
Yeah.
the same thing as like as long as they stay close and win a couple of these, they should be in the hunt.
Yeah. So their next few: San Francisco, Detroit, Pittsburgh, then Chicago, Rams, Green Bay, Chicago. So they have to win probably 4 more, I think, to get into the playoffs, and I think that there are 4 winnable games on that schedule. So,
Yep.
Yeah, go Vikings. I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them.
Ooh, Vikings.
All right, let's get to some of the lowlights of Week 11. I want to get this out of the way. I didn't talk about it at the beginning of the show on purpose, but I just wrote Browns fans. Browns fans right now. So the Browns beat the Lions. It was the ugliest football game I've witnessed in a few years from the Browns. Baker Mayfield looked pretty bad most of all of the game. He looked bad, but then the Browns fans booed him off the field. I had a buddy who was at the game that said, I didn't even notice that. It must have been closer to him. But he heard it, media heard it, so it must have been right behind the bench. I don't really want to talk about the Browns the rest of the season, to be completely honest, because nothing. Here's the thing: I could tell you why Baker Mayfield's accuracy was off, but everyone's going to say that I'm just excusing his bad play, which
Yeah,
I'm
that's the
not.
unfortunate part.
Yeah, I'm not. But
You're not allowed to analyze. It's like, okay, well,
exactly.
what do you want us to do then?
So Baker Mayfield, he missed a ton of open guys like he has been, but he also can't pivot right now or can't transfer his weight fully. And it's pretty clear that he's throwing with all arm. And so he gets booed off the field. Randy, what did you think of that? What do you think of the Browns? It's all yours. I don't want to talk about
it. There was a couple. I mean, like, this is 2 straight weeks where, well, I believe it's 2 straight weeks where he's had really to open the game an atrocious pick that's just all on him, no question. Um, Overthrowing both really.
Yeah.
Um, but like we've talked about, he's struggling. He's got his mechanics are wavering because of these injuries. There was multiple times where he made bad throws because he felt the pressure coming and he knew, hey, I really can't get driven into the ground right now. And for that, like, I mean, we were both like, yeah, Browns definitely need to win this week. But if he's really this hurt, like, let's have Baker sit 1 week at least. And
Yeah.
Keenum's good enough. He's going to do it at worst what Baker's going to do
Yeah.
as he's completely hurt. But I don't know if you've had any like heel bruises or stuff like that. It's painful just to walk. So
Yeah.
let alone to be running sprints on the field and pivoting on it and making plays. It's very astounding. I know he's very, very tough. It's really bad. We got 1 week playing the Ravens, then the bye, then the Ravens. It's one of those like, do we throw him out there this week, and or do we have him sit for 2 weeks and come back to get revenge on the Ravens if Keenum can't keep the game and close enough to win? Um, it's very bad because obviously the Steelers lost, but Bengals stuck out a win. Ravens shouldn't have won, but did. They had a chance to catch up a lot in the division. They caught up a bit and they sustained where they were, but
Yeah.
they need to split with the Ravens here, and they need to get healthy. I assume Kareem Hunt probably practices this week, does not play, plays after the bye. We need the line to get healthy. I mean, there's a lot to go on. Baker, again, didn't play well. There's some excuses there. We don't need to say them. Biggest thing, you won. You know,
Exactly.
there's plenty of people that watch games this week with their quarterbacks playing incredible, and then they lost.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could ask the Steelers how they feel. Ben played okay. He still
Yeah.
looked old and terrible, but he played well
Well,
despite that.
I mean, Cam played really well. They lost. I mean, there's multiple teams like that,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
just how
And
it is. I mean,
and
I
the
would say,
narrative. Go
well,
ahead.
I mean, Baker played better than Dak did this week. He played, like,
Debatably better than Josh Allen for a
yeah,
large majority of the game. He-
exactly. So it's like, do you want to look at it through the tainted lens that all Browns fans have because they want to be negative because that's the only thing that they know and it's what's comfortable to them, or do you actually take it for what it is and take the win?
Yeah, here's the thing, man. They thrive on it. They
Oh, I
thrive
know.
on they've been waiting for an opportunity like that. I say they. We are Browns fans. Like we are.
Well, I am not a negative Browns fan though.
Yes, I can get negative. With this Baker Mayfield stuff, it's ridiculous. Like the dude walked off the field and got killed for not speaking with media after. He's a frustrated NFL player. Like I know he was accepting of the fine that he's probably going to get because he knew that he was going to say dumb things because he got booed off the field. Like I don't know. I don't want to go on and on. I don't want to talk about the Browns ever again, especially after what I expect is a loss to the Ravens this week. All right,
Possibly.
next. Yeah, next. I didn't make a graphic for it because it's not worth it. Matt Nagy is a low light, and Matt Nagy is a low light for a variety of reasons. Matt Nagy was on the field as the whole stadium was chanting "Fire Matt Nagy." I don't know if you guys have Bleacher Report on your phones and subscribe to NBA updates, but the entire Bulls arena was also chanting "Fire Matt Nagy" this evening, and that is hilarious. Matt Nagy did what all bad head coaches do, and that's watched his rookie quarterback turn into a superstar for 2 weeks and then just completely handcuff him again in what was the worst game plan I have seen out of them all year. And that includes the Browns game where they had 5-man protection a lot against Myles Garrett.
Man,
What did you think of the Bears? Do you think he gets fired soon?
yeah, I'm not sure if it's in season. I've never. going to say like, hey, this coach is going to get fired week 12. Like it doesn't necessarily make sense. Yeah, you get a jump start on your search technically, but if you're this far, like we're going to fire him, that we need to fire him week 12, you were already going to start searching in week 12. And you were going to have a separate group of people looking into it and trying to figure it out. He's just he's a bad head coach. There's no way around it. He makes bad moves, bad scheme moves. He played a conservative game against a backup quarterback without their best receiver, at least for now, or I would say. And I mean, backup running backs out there, the Ravens should not have won the game. They even Andy Dalton made it so they couldn't win the game, and then the defense gave it up very late. It's just awful coaching, and he needs to be gone, plain simple. And they know he's gone too, and I think he does as well.
Well, and the players do. I don't know if you caught all the chatter today. The report is that he's completely lost the locker room now, and that's why I think the in-season fire is coming.
Yeah, once like mainstream media picks it up, he'll be fired within a week or so. That's how it always works. It's the key. Oh no, we leaked that, and it's usually the team did it so they can have the excuse to fire him right away.
Yeah, it's positioning themselves to not get any backlash, although they won't get any backlash for that. So
no.
We have on here the Raiders offense. Randy, do you want to talk about the Raiders offense and how
anemic
it was?
There's like a small caveat here. So obviously with what's happened with the Raiders, at least just purely speaking to the offense, you lost your head coach who was calling the offense. So now you have a slightly skewed playbook with a different play caller who's not meant to be the play caller, who isn't right to be a play caller, and he's frankly not good at it, even though he's trying his best. I can't really blame him for that. And then you're a vital part of your offense is gone. We won't get into why, but that's just gone, and they're trying to adjust to it. I think they're trying to be super conservative in play calling, and it gets to a point where Carr like tries to outdo everything, and it causes mistakes. They drove down the field the first two drives, and then it took till very late third, fourth quarter for them to do anything. So it's just absolutely atrocious what they're doing on offense, and it's just, they easily could have won that game. They could have won pretty much every game they've lost. They should have won or had a great chance to, and they've just absolutely shot themselves in the foot, and then seemingly played too safe and gave up. It's just very you're just not going to win like that. You're playing simple. You lost to two playoff teams back to back. I don't even know who they play this week. They play on Thanksgiving. I should probably know who they play.
Is it the Cowboys?
It is the Cowboys, and they'll probably lose it even with Dak looking like dog shit, with Zeke a little banged up, without the 2-star receivers. They're still going to lose, because if they play offense like that, they still will lose. Because I know the Cowboys haven't really scored points in these down weeks, but still, it's atrocious what they're doing.
Yeah, one way to identify if there's bad play calling or if it's bad scheme is if the script, aka the first 15 to 20 plays, depending on how the game's flowing, if they're able to move the ball on the script, that means that the scheme's all right. It's not the best, maybe, but just speaking to the Raiders, like it might not be the best scheme in the world, but if the script works, then that means it's okay. But then the play calling goes downhill after that, and you can see that.
Well, they got handed their first 3 points, so they literally recovered a fumble in field goal range. The next set of downs they drove, and then they just couldn't drive the rest of the game. They got Waller more involved, and then it just seemed like if it wasn't Waller, they couldn't move the ball, so it just didn't make any sense. It's just really weird to watch where the offense wasn't supposed to be the problem, and the defense was supposed to be suspect every other week, and the defense has been solid all season, even with depth corners that have been cut from other teams.
Yeah, man. Ngakwe is playing out of his mind. Just when they're able to just pin their ears back and get to the quarterback, they are terrified. Like that is one of the better pass
They're
rushing
very good.
duos,
And then
including Max Crosby.
they have people that legitimately were cut from practice squads,
Right.
shutting down receivers at corner.
Yeah.
And then you can't win. They're shutting down Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Come on.
Yeah. It's too bad. It's too bad. All right. Another team that I don't know what's happening at this point, but the Bills, they're pretty broken. I heard an interesting breakdown of it. And with Josh Allen, I believe it was Benjamin Solak on the Ringer podcast said when we were evaluating him, it was always going to be a roller coaster because even if he hit his height, it was bound to be, inconsistent. And then 2020 happened, and we lost sight of exactly what we thought Josh Allen was going to be. Which so I love Josh Allen coming out. His ceiling is exactly what 2020 was, but how sustainable that was over the course of a 15-year career, I was still unsure of because he does play in a non-traditional way in that like he throws a lot of YOLO balls still, and he's still not super accurate. And we saw a little bit of that. The Colts defense gave him fits. Earlier last week, I heard a breakdown of, the Colts defense actually is kind of perfect against the Bills because they can't run the ball. They can just play too high the whole game, and that's what the Colts like to do. And the Bills aren't going to pose a threat, especially if they're able to kind of condense the pockets. And that's exactly what they did. The Bills looked awful. The Colts looked amazing. The Bills were missing some pieces on their offensive line and on their defense. But Randy, do you even think that the Bills are a top 3 team in the AFC right now?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, because I still don't think the Chiefs are back there yet. And
I
then,
agree.
I mean,
I,
I think it's gonna be the Patriots. I think it's them. I would say the Ravens, obviously.
yeah, that would be my top 3 as well. Although I think the Chiefs, with one more nice performance and another one of these Bills
Yeah.
blunders, I think it could get rough. Either way, Bills fans, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know the expectations for you were just as high, and you're still in a playoff spot.
Yeah. They just had to. I mean, like you said, we knew Josh Allen wasn't that accurate. He's worked on it greatly. He's much improved. Much props to him. We both, I believe, projected a downtick in his completion percentage this year for obvious reasons because we knew he wouldn't do that again, or at least that consists of a rate. And it just seems to be affecting him too much. And I think in this game they got down a lot quick and they couldn't stop the Colts running game, so they didn't have as much time of possession. So they're trying so much to
Yeah,
make it work, and he's YOLO balling it like we've seen, and it just wasn't working.
yeah. They have schematic issues too, but I don't want to bore you guys. I could talk about that, but if you're interested in that, hit me up on Twitter at C Williams NFL. I'm famous now. I did not mention that at the top of the show. Got hit with an old takes exposed for Jonathan Taylor, who ran all over the Bills. So saved it for a timely entrance here. It's not fun. It's not fun, by the way. Don't get old takes exposed. All right. We put on here the Jaguars. That's just low hanging fruit. Yeah, the Jaguars suck still. They just lost their top receiver. Trevor Lawrence, it can't. Isn't that funny to say? Like that is legit what he was, Jamal Agnew. But it's Trevor Lawrence. I feel for the kid because like he's putting some nice throws out there. He graded well this week. He was a top 10 quarterback on PFF's grades. He just has nothing out there to help him, and it sucks to see. Do you think the Jaguars make a late season turnaround type of
No,
push? Yeah,
no chance.
me neither. I don't want to talk about them anymore either. So last thing, Cowboys offense. Amari matters, guys. Amari Cooper matters. It matters even more when CeeDee Lamb leaves the game, and then it's just Michael Gallup and a bunch of guys that are dropping passes early on in the game in the first place. Cedric Wilson had a key drop. I think Gallup had one as well. The Cowboys offense, though, the most disappointing thing to me was that during the script, like we just talked about, they pulled out like this crazy wildcat fake reverse where Tony Pollard faked a pitch and then took it for 20 some yards. That was just gone after the script. Like they just did not pull any of that out.
Yep.
Do you have concerns about them moving forward? Do you think this was another one of those blip type of games?
I think you have to say it's closer to like a blip type of game. Because again, the Chiefs played well, and I think having Clyde back was enormous for that.
Yeah.
He looked like they tried to, at least for parts of the game, have the offense run through him a good bit. It's one of those like, with all the injuries and sicknesses at receiver, and with Zeke not wanting him to go full go the rest of the game after getting his ankle rolled up on, trying to monitor him as well. And there was no big plays from the defense, which is what they've kind of feasted on to really seal away games. So I think it's closer to a blip. I think you have to give them that benefit of the doubt with your stars out.
Yeah. And Tyron Smith was also out of this game.
Yeah.
I think that impacted it because the Chiefs were able to generate some pressure. Other side of the ball, though, the Cowboys defense, I mean, they didn't have the big plays, but they played really, really well. Micah Parsons is as much a stud as I've seen out of a rookie, I think. Defensive rookie of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even think there's a question at this point.
Yeah, me neither. All right. That will do it for our Week 11 fallout, including our lowlights. If we missed on something, just hit us up at the FFB. But we are going to get into our early 2022 NFL draft thoughts. And I wanted to start this by saying there was the report for me and Rappaport over the weekend that despite the fact that people think that it's a weak quarterback class or a shallow quarterback class, the NFL GMs still expect 3 or 4 to go in the first round. Yes, guys. Yes, quarterbacks are going to be taken in the first round. I do want to say that, but because we had this discourse on Twitter, I wanted to open up with we might have 1 or 2 quarterbacks with a first round grade this year in our guide. I personally, right now, I'm looking at 1 possibility. So my grades with our grading scale, like I can give 10 more points to someone, and those 10 points, if all goes accordingly, put Sam Howell at the back end of the first round. Sam Howell is still my QB1. The rest of the guys, now there's still some football to be played. Still a couple weeks left of college football, 1 week, and then bowl games and stuff. But Randy, I know you said like it's a good thing that this is being out there now, so we don't have to reiterate. But do you foresee yourself having a couple of first round grades on these guys?
I would say 2 at most. And I think Howell would be one of them. And I'm not gonna get into the other one because I'm definitely not quite sure. There's a huge tier. I think you tweeted out a tier list where you didn't have a tier 1. You had like 3 in tier 2 and like 6 in tier 3. I think for me, I think they're all pretty much in the same tier. I just think I've seen Hal in his model in the NFL work multiple times, and I've seen good things from him. And any throw he can make it, kind of thing. So I think he probably edges in the first. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, we didn't have Mac Jones as a first round quarterback. We knew he was going in the first.
Yes.
I know we both didn't have Daniel Jones in the first, or Haskins, or Locke, and Locke basically went in the very late first, but it's the second, and then the other 2 went in the first. I'm trying to think of other ones like that off the top of my head, but it's how it is. If anything, teams, even if it's the very back end, teams want that fifth year option in case they strike gold, so they don't have to pay as quickly, and they can have a longer window for that cheap succeed.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. So my quarterback rankings right now, they start with Sam Howell and Matt Corral. Now, I will say, since we're talking a majority about fantasy right now, if Malik Willis is drafted in the first round, he's probably the fantasy QB1 because of how much he runs the football.
pretty much all I could do. I mean, what?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll
He's
break down Malik
yeah, yeah.
Willis.
He could definitely throw the ball, just be kind of facetious, but like he has issues. He has major mechanical issues throwing, timing issues, trust in his arm. So all need to be worked
Progressions.
out. And let's be honest. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. The right coach this offseason can fix that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be a long process, but it can be done. We've seen it.
Yeah. A large question that we will have is why not do it with Desmond Ritter, who has been more successful and has similar tools? It's we can't get into it yet because we'll talk for hours. But
Yes,
I mean,
hours, literally hours.
yeah, and Desmond Ritter's put up 3 straight great performances. So maybe the quarterback class has a knight in shining armor coming down the stretch. But the other thing, so a lot of people have been saying that the wide receiver class is weaker this year because we've been blessed with some insane wide receiver classes. But I'm here to tell you that this one might not look the same as the last few. It's just as deep. I started thinking about, well, I was watching Alabama play last week and John Mechie was going off in the first half. And I'm like, man, I was low on John Mechie and I still probably will be. But that means he's like my wide receiver 10, and I think he's going to contribute at the NFL level because we've seen receivers like him do that. And so
Yeah.
if I can name 10 guys at the top of my board that I think are going to contribute, that's a deep wide receiver class. I, I know you're early stages of scouting, but do you feel the same about this wide receiver class? I mean,
Yeah, I think people are underselling the possibility of like a big three for this class. Um, I think that really does happen. I know there's a major injury to a
Drake
receiver
London.
already. Yes, thank you. And that's probably, I don't think it affects his draft stock as long as he can at least compete and uh, do something at a pro day. I
Yeah,
don't think it's necessarily 40 that's gonna, but they're gonna want to see him move. But I mean, obviously, both Ohio State receivers are obviously getting drafted. Um, I would say for sure, one gets drafted day one, if not both.
probably
They do
both.
different things, and that's why they work well together as of right now. But you have that like elite all around guy in Wilson, and then you have that the smoothest route runner you're going to see in Olave that just gets open regardless. He just gets open,
Yeah,
and that guy is always getting drafted no matter what. He will be, and he's going to produce it
he
because
will.
that translates early and often. There's no question there.
We
And then like Burks, and you can go down an entire list, and you can see that yeah, we're gonna have a deep wide receiver class, and if you actually want to get a jump start and look at some like Devy mocks or early rookie mocks going into this year, because there's a lot happening right now because it's near the end of the season and people want to know what they're gonna do. Hey, do I want to take the shot to get this guy at 6 overall? Do I want to trade right now for someone else that's been in the league? That's a process happening, and you probably should be doing that as a dynasty owner. But if you look at it, you got like, I mean, the quarterbacks, even in Superflex, aren't necessarily going high, and like maybe 2 running backs are going high in the first, if that, maybe one in the back end, and then the rest is just wide receivers. It's just all of them.
yeah. Yeah. So that brings me to the next point. The running back class, I think we're going to be disappointed with it because I can name 6 guys that I think maybe seven guys that I think could be given a role at the next level. But the fact that there's a could in there, I think is worrisome. I know Isaiah Spiller, Brees Hall have been the talk of forever for the last couple
Yes.
of years as being the top of this class. Kenneth Walker has made a late surge. Kyron Williams has been solid. He's just a tiny little guy,
Yeah.
which we'll talk through how he plays big, and he'll probably get drafted higher than you think. And then a guy out of Missouri that you guys should keep an eye on, Tyler Beatty. I think he's going to find a role. Kid is explosive. Rashad White, I'm still on the fence. I really like what he can do in the receiving game, so I think that could have a fantasy role, and I think that gets him on the field a little bit more. And then Zach Charbonnet, who's having a really good year for UCLA. Outside of that, though, and I've studied quite a few, like
Yeah.
I like Sincere McCormick, but I don't see him having like an immediate role at the next level. There are just a lot of question marks about this running back class.
Yeah, we both like Sincere actually,
Yeah,
but he's one of those, like, he's not going to be in our top 5. I think that just says it all.
yeah,
This is next year. Ford, is he out next year?
yeah.
That's
Jerome
what I
Ford's
thought.
in the class. I studied him. I
It,
like some of what
it's
he
another
puts
name.
on tape.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's probably the last name we're going to end up caring about. That's what I was like.
yeah,
When we get deeper, I've watched a good amount of the games so far, and I think that's probably why it's more prominent in my mind. Same with Williams, because those seemingly were the games that were on when I had free time during work.
yeah,
uh, just so happens, and that aren't fucking first or second year players. So,
right. Yeah, yeah,
um, I think it's just not like the strongest class. Next year is clearly stronger. And we already have the top guy pretty much listed as the year after that at Ohio State. So, and we have
yeah,
already the top guy for the year before that. So next year,
yeah,
already listed Bijan. So it's we don't
yeah,
have that guy, and I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed. This year, it ended up being kind of a split between like Najee and Javante, where people really, really loved him, and then Trey Sermon jumped up, and Michael Carter, same with their draft because of their draft spots. I think we're going to get probably a draft spot highlighting one or two of those, and then we're going to get like maybe probably no other running backs in the first. Like,
yeah,
not NFL draft, like rookie drafts. Like,
yeah. Honestly, it'll be close. Maybe at the back end,
there'll
but
be someone that gets that jump because of where they landed, but
yeah,
still.
yeah. In terms of, we've talked about this before. Go get 2023 picks. I can't stress it enough. I mean, between
Well,
so you might not have to do it right now because the
yeah,
value of those
yeah.
picks are going to be the same. But like, do
It's
it.
either for me, it's either like this year's picks. I think first round picks especially. Because I think if you have a couple second round picks, I think people are going to take shots. You already know the 8 guys that are gone. You know, like when we get to that point after the draft, because most rookie drafts happen the week after the draft. When we get to that point, we're going to know probably the first 8 that are going to be gone. Not in the same order because every league's different, but we're going to know. But
Yeah,
that next bit is going to be very clumped together, and we're not quite sure. You're probably going to get a quarterback in the second round this year, which is hard to say last year. Maybe
yeah,
even a couple. So if you're a light or old quarterback room, I think this is one of those years where you want back end first, late or early seconds, mid seconds to try and bolster that. I think if you need wide receivers, this is a great class for that. But if you need running backs, I think you trade that first for running back. If you need a top flight quarterback, I think you trade that first for a top flight quarterback. I did that in our OG league. I traded 2 first and LaVisca for Lamar. I needed I don't have a top quarterback, plain and simple, until I did that move. Obviously, didn't help me this week, unfortunately. But like that's the kind of move I think everyone needs to be focusing on this year, and not trying over the last 2 years. If you just started Dynasty, you are programmed with how good these draft classes have been on all 3 of those major positions, to value those first round picks, value those picks this year. I think this is one of those years where if you don't need a receiver help or you don't need depth at quarterback, you may want to pass that along. There's some tight end possibilities this year that we might like, but we still have to flesh those out, in my opinion.
We'll need to see draft capital too. Unfortunately,
Yes.
that's a pretty big indicator. Although Brevin Jordan's, sticking around despite falling in the draft, so that's kind of fun. He,
Yes, he's sticking around, but he's on a terrible team, which is good for him though. Like
yeah,
he has the opportunity to break out next year. He
yeah,
does.
yeah. Okay. Enough about the skill positions. Acquire players and 2023 picks. Last thing I want to say: this edge rushing class, is the best I've seen since I started scouting by a pretty significant amount. Um, so I can't even remember a class where I said so. Kayvon Thibodeau is the consensus number one overall pick. In every single mock, you're going to see an edge rusher going
Yeah.
first overall, which is the first time since Myles Garrett in 2017. 2017. But
and
go ahead.
that is the first draft of, just speaking for our experience, that's our like first draft of us like studying more but not scouting and doing kind of a competition between us and
Yes.
Sweet and everyone else that wanted to, which isn't a lot of people. Apparently this is weird. But we
We're
looked
strange.
harder in that class, and I think that was a pretty good edge class, but I think it was held to higher standards because of Miles, and we've seen it work because of Miles. This
Right.
one, I don't want to speak on the depth of the position necessarily, but there's a top 3 for sure that are
Elite.
game changers year
Elite.
one, if
Yeah.
not up to, well, because it takes time. It does. Not everyone's going to get 10 sacks the first year. This is not how the world works, or even 5 necessarily, but you can get pressures. I mean, look at like Oweh for the Ravens.
Yeah.
He basically did nothing last year in college if you only look at stats and not just how the game
Right.
played and pressures and watch actual tape. And
Right.
everything that we saw is happening right now. It's exactly what we thought would happen. Maybe not to this quick a success, but once you found the landing spot, you understood when it was going to come.
Yep.
Whereas this one, I think all 3 of the top 3 for sure are automatic starters, automatic like playmakers, get sacks, get tackles for loss, make plays, and probably by the end of the year schemed around. Like that's how good these guys are. There's like what I would say like 2 to 3 more in the first.
Maybe 4, man. Like
Yeah, well, I
it's
would
a
say
little crazy.
confidently 2, and then it could get up to 4, like 4 or 5
Yeah.
more besides those top 3. So like there's obviously really good quote unquote depth, but really top heavy. But it's definitely the best we've scouted. I mean, this year's was, I think
It
3,
was
4
good.
guys were really good.
Yeah.
But
And
those are
still
like,
had some question marks, I would say.
yeah,
Like,
they all still have question marks. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
everyone.
Azeez Ojulari was my top overall edge prospect, and he went in the second round. Like,
Yeah, I mean, literally everyone's had some sort of impact this year from the first like couple rounds that we liked, but in the year before, not really much else.
yeah.
It was a little rough. It was
Yeah.
rough the year before. So this is by far the best, and that top 3 is scary.
Yeah. So
And
the
2
top
of which
3,
are top 10. Really, I mean, 3 could go in the top 10, and
I,
at this point, might be shocked if aren't in the top 10.
I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't go, or if they uh, went in the top 5. So the
Might have
3 that we're
alarmed
talking
the
about,
top 10. What the what the
yeah,
fuck?
Kayvon Thibodeau, who is the consensus number 1 overall pick, and he's my edge 2 right now. Aiden Hutchinson is my edge 1 out of Michigan. Kid's freaking absurd. He has every tool in his toolbox already, which is fun to watch. And then George Karlaftis. And then when you get past that, the other Ajabo on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to be a first round pick. I think there's a world where the USC kid, his name escapes me right now, he's more scheme dependent, but I think that he could end up Drake Jackson.
Yes, thank you.
I think he could end up a first round pick. There are multiple guys. There's a kid out of Notre Dame that has a chance to really make a name for himself. So I haven't even finished scouting all these kids, and I can tell you, those 3 are going to be in my top 6 or 7 prospects this year. So
Yeah, I believe my top overall prospect I have scouted on our overall through the years big board is Chase Young. I do not believe he gets taken over as of right now. Obviously, my scouting things are nowhere near final, so my tune might change. But I think at least the top 2 get close, if not tie. If not, it's just like Thibodeau is up there with like the physical freak nature of Chase. And then I would say Hutchinson has more tools than Chase even does now.
Yeah.
But he's just not as much of a freak. So
yeah. No, but man, he's so functionally strong. I can't wait to talk
he
about
is. Yes.
He's so fun. So fun. But all right, we need to get to some waiver wire guys because we are running behind,
But
which
it
I knew.
sucks, Christian.
I know. So the waivers are going to be bleak this week, as they are late season.
It's week 12, guys. Like,
yeah, you shouldn't. Hopefully, your rosters are still okay, and you don't need all these guys. But first up, we'll just jump right into it. Cam Newton, 58% rostered, so a little over that 50% threshold, but
it's a quarterback though.
It's a quarterback, and this should be 100% rostered after this week. He finished as a QB1 on the week. He didn't even have an outstanding day. Like we talked about how good he looked, yes, but volume-wise, it wasn't amazing. And so Cam has to be on your rosters.
This is his first week back, and he was a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, it's simple.
Yeah,
he's already the number 39 quarterback on the year after a game and a few snaps in the game before. So pick up Cam, especially just always have quarterbacks. I mean, they pick up Andy Dalton this week. I wouldn't love it, but he's probably going to have a decent fantasy football game, especially in Superflex, which Cam's probably already rostered there. Next on the list is Traquan Smith. We talked about him last week. 16% rostered, had another good game. Now, there might be a benching of Trevor Siemian coming. He played okay. He had a good fantasy day, but he made some really, really terrible decisions. Traquan Smith this week had 8 targets. The last 2 weeks with Trevor Siemian, 7 targets, 8 targets, 9 catches, and over 100 yards over those 2 games and a touchdown. So Traquan seems to be back to what we would hope that Traquan would be with Jameis. So
yeah.
Any lasting thoughts on Traquan Smith?
He's their number 1 receiver. He's gotten the overwhelming target share over at least the last 2 weeks, if not the last 3. He's just not. They're hit or miss right now, but he's the only wide receiver 1 potential in the free agent pool.
That is absolutely true. All right, next guy
of the team, not overall.
Yeah. Cedric Wilson, 9% rostered. The reason that this guy is on the list, well, first, he had 7 targets, caught 4 balls for 36 yards, only had 7.6 fantasy points. However, with Amari Cooper and potentially CeeDee Lamb missing this football game, Cedric Wilson is going to go into Thursday's game on Thanksgiving as the wide receiver 2 for the Dallas Cowboys, who will be playing probably outside of their mind because they just got embarrassed on national television.
Why you gotta say that to me?
I'm sorry. It's gonna be rough, I think.
You bitch.
So Cedric Wilson, you can probably pick him up and start him this week. I would recommend it as a flex play over guys like, maybe you were flexing Rondale Moore or AJ Green or something like that with them on bye. Cedric Wilson can slide into your lineup.
Yep.
Cool. And then we have 2 more guys listed. I only made 1 more graphic. Adam Troutman, 13% rostered.
It's almost like someone talked about this last week.
Yes, you did, and it was a great call. So Adam Troutman, now he sprained his MCL though, so don't pick him up. Yeah. So the report came out. I didn't see the report when I made this, by the way. Yeah, so don't pick up Adam Troutman. This was breaking news. He is out 4 to 6 weeks. I thought it was going to be a minor thing where he might have to sit out a week.
I did too. No. I saw that a bit ago, and I was like, oh, I forgot to take him out. Crap.
Yeah.
Okay. So the real last guy, Tevin Coleman.
Yeah. Tevin Tevin Coleman, you can go ahead, Randy. You talk about Tevin.
Yeah, I mean, with Michael Carter going down, Tevin Coleman has been rotating in and out of the lineup. With this being kind of a three-headed workhorse, they will not bring in a third head. This will just stay him and Ty Johnson absolutely killing it. I think Ty Johnson with the lead role, definitely in the passing game, and I think a split role in the running game, but I think it's the same thing. We both just talked about how there's a good chance Michael Carter doesn't really even come back this year. Ty Johnson's never had that kind of workload. So there's a chance that Tevin Coleman's the only guy around, and there's a chance that he gets a ton of running work, and they just split it in half like that, so they don't try, so no one gets hurt kind of thing. I think he would be the goal line back in that situation as well. So there's some fancy upside there.
Yeah, perhaps. We would say Ty Johnson, but guys, we've told you
2 months, bro.
Yeah, we've been saying that literally for the last 6 weeks. So if Ty Johnson's out there, yeah, absolutely pick him up. But as my good friend Jeff from the Devi Royale says, you can zig while others zag. While everyone spends up on Ty Johnson, you can get Tevin Coleman for virtually free probably this week. So
virtually.
Yes, virtually. So sorry about the Adam Troutman thing. That was sad news for me because I was going to pick him up in a league. So don't
sad news all around.
Yeah. So
I only cried twice. It's okay.
Right. All right. That'll do it for this episode of The Cut, though. We hope you enjoyed it. The NFL draft content's coming, guys. Fantasy season.
Clearly, we're too excited about it already.
Yeah, exactly.
We're nowhere near anywhere ready to talk about these guys as actual prospects.
Not yet. We're getting there. The all 22 is starting to filter in, and so that's the exciting part. We'll be able to give you guys some opinions on those guys. I tweeted out, just kind of being a jerk today. Everyone, the problem with talking about rookies on Twitter is that people tell me to put my money where my mouth is, but I'm always picking at the back of the first at best because I trade my first round picks to get better players. No, and then someone said trade up and put your money where your mouth is, and I said I did with Justin Fields, but there's no one to do that for in this class, I don't think. But we'll get to talk about that. Randy, do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
Nope.
All right. We will be back. As always, remember to check out the shows this week. Now, they will be hit or miss. I don't really know what is happening with the shows this week, but just stay tuned to our Twitter. Turn on the live video notifications, if not all the push notifications, so that you know when one of the shows goes live. We will have our article out this week, and our rankings will be up. And so check all that stuff out, thecutffb.com. For Randy Hall, I'm Christian Williams. We will talk to you guys sometime later.